Thank you for everybody join with me today this workshop and now I would like to have a little bit of time that I want to share with the mindfulness-based mobile camp for tsunami survivors suffering post-traumatic stresses. So this was my experience back from 2004 tsunami, how I collaborate and integrate with the many clinical experience with the mindfulness and Buddhism and meditation to provide wonderful trauma crisis support system. Please make sure your Zoom microphone is mute. Type your question. I would answer your question end of the discussion. And basically, December 26th, 2004, on that day at morning around 8:45, 9 o'clock, 9.1 magnitude earthquake, one of the largest ever recorded ripped through undersea fault in the Indian Ocean, propelling a massive column of the water towards the suspecting shores, tsunami. That was a Boxing Day. The Boxing Day tsunami would be the deadliest in recorded history, taking 230,000 lives in a matter of hours, within an hour. I was middle of the devastation. At the time, I was living in my family city of Negombo, a beautiful small city by Western Sri Lanka, home for holidays for my studies in abroad. I was very much in a Christmas mind, happy without any doubting, without any thoughts what would come out. Basically, waking in the morning, I had absolutely no idea what's happening, what's coming. I was not expecting any trauma or anything that day because it's a very regular, usual December 26th. People were running to the water, to the sea, in a thought of understanding these unbelievable geographical changes. Raining, little bit of cloud and different climate. People had no idea about why behind the climate. We noticed the sea backed up about an almost 1 kilometer into the shore. Then huge 4-meter high wave came rolling towards the land. In on time, over 79,000 homes and many other buildings were destroyed in island Sri Lanka. As the first wave of tsunami hit, my family and I felt highly grounded away from the coast. So I later learned that anyone walking on the sea to collect some of the fish, crabs, lobsters, or collecting seaweeds and seashells were swept away by powerful forces of the water. And I think all of them lost their life. Unbelievably, incredibly, 30 to 50,000 people died in Sri Lanka that day. A few of my extended family members and friends were affected by tsunami. Those pressed into the catastrophe. I was fortunate in sustaining only minor injuries. Minor injuries were not very were noticeable, but many traumatic memories, life experience. I left with post-traumatic stress, PTSD, including an anxiety, fear, frustration, a lot of disagreement and anger with political leadership and authorities supposed to help and warn people ahead of 20-30 minutes. And also I was very empathized to victims by providing food and lodging, not getting any support. And beside that, anger, sadness, state of grieving and trauma. I was reoccurring and living all these mixed emotions. I know my experience as a young university student working part-time a small non-government organization called CLAVS, Child Youth Foundation for Development in Sri Lanka. A non-government organization could be useful to help and do something with my knowledge and strength. And I had been involved with the NGO, non-government organization, delivering certain support group therapies and one-on-one psychological support program widely across the island. I came out with this innovative mobile camp idea because government was inviting professionals and voluntary support workers to help. The innovative mobile idea based on my experience clubs, I came up with a mobile group therapy service that could provide support and sessions, meetings with the care of those who wanted victimized and psychologically wounded it across the geographical area of southern Sri Lanka. I reached out my friends. It was very difficult to find who really wanted to comment and support. Came out with the two colleagues and friends. They were professional and almost they were in the field. I knew them before long. I was leading a 3-member team with a solid plan of helping mobile innovative trauma support crisis mobilization camp. So due to the scarcity of building and all the building are gone and destroyed, I thought we could use a 10 by 10 borrowing camping big horn tent that helps and fit 12 to 15 people. The advantage that could be transported easily anywhere in between Sri Lanka, southern, northern and eastern, a little bit of western side. Enough room for number of family, individual and children, providing children, teenagers and family as well as adult. The assistance that we have given was varied. It was very confusional and challengeable. At the same time, we had some amount of knowledge because we were student. We were not professional at that moment. But we understood the importance of providing care to children and teenagers and families as well as adult and group at the same time. So essentially, we offered biopsychosocial spiritual program. That was my format basically, to help focus belief and practices and lead by experienced support system, and also inviting local Buddhist practitioners, monk, bhantes and sanghas. This innovative idea involved the short-term group session, 60 to 90 minutes, integrated mindful moment exercises, mindful lifestyle development, Buddhist psychotherapeutic values and practices, walking through eating, walking, basic meditation, and many mindfulness practices that already established in Sri Lanka under the Buddhist values. Through labeling practice, thoughts and feeling and body's sensation and scan, that was one of the tools that we used in this innovative mobile camp. So participants were also instructed to practice mindfulness. We helped them to cultivate, learn, which they almost have an idea about what this is, during the daily lives with guidance from Sangha, and we encourage them to connect with the local spiritual and holistic support system that improve the transpersonal support in their resiliency and recovery. Most of these spiritual leaders actively involved. Going back to a little bit of the innovative idea with the certain therapeutic and psychological theories and values, one of the things coming to my mind is psychoeducational group discussion that is integrative mindfulness and Buddhist values. We conduct psychoeducational group discussion about trauma. thinking back, the Buddhist thinking and conceptualize and rational way of thinking, psychoeducational discussions are very cultivating with the local Buddhist practice. Strangely, people supported, and stages of grief, addiction, and how impact of unresolved post-traumatic stresses and trauma that they are already going through on individual responses to the tsunami, we had very clearly notified during this program. People were taking part of the meeting, they were attending, they're learning, they are rejecting, they are making complaint, they don't like about this the idea and what we are providing, and a lot of emotions, anger towards to this we had notified. Speaking of post-traumatic stresses that we noticed, a lot of interest you thought, such as repeated involuntary memories, distressing dreams, and issues with sleeping, noticeable flashback reported reoccurring again and again, had also noticed. So negative thoughts and feelings, ongoing fear, horror, anger, guilt, shame, anxiety, less interest in activities previously enjoyed, and feeling detached to themselves and others and community, and also feeling detached to many life events, we had very much notified in this group sessions. I don't like to say this is group therapy exactly, but it has a therapeutic value. It runs in a group format, but it is also lifestyle support meetup groups. The other symptoms we found, very being irritable and having anger outburst, behaving recklessness and self-destructive way of being, overly watched one surrounding supporting way, being easily running into problems and issues with concentrations. And then you see all the post-traumatic stress experience we had notified, but we were not medically service provider. We were helping in a very holistic manner, holistic approach, biopsychosocial, spiritual, theoretical belief, and it very well cultivate and integrate with the Buddhist mindfulness belief and support. People were attending one-on-one and mostly group, and we did not notice and see constant attendance. Sometimes they're dropping when they need, but they knew that we were there and we were locating certain part. And sometimes we had visit city to city, place to place. We've seen people and invited by certain organizations and certain people. And also slowly we got into leadership, religious leadership and political leadership. They were helping in a different way to establish this innovative mobile trauma crisis stabilization support system. Some counselors and social workers involved, crisis workers supported, and also we were lucky to have some voluntary support workers from all over the world, different world. The majority of attendants were live-in survival camp based on temples and churches, schools, and other public settings. That's how Eastern society mostly structured and service delivered. But it was a very supportive because there were monitored leadership and support were already there with that survival camp settings. Sponsorship was very supported with the charitable organization. We got some support. Many people were attended then, and it makes sense that set up client closely. This supportive setting is very productive. The invitation was very open, without judging, no clarification, nothing. It was open to anybody. Participation has no obligation to attend or return. And sometimes I remember we were doing services middle of the night when they need sometimes even the weekend, but we try to balance our personal life. In order to provide a good support, we need to have a good individual lifestyle. So that was my encouragement to my team. We had a challenge with the team. We lost a couple of our members because they were busy with their jobs. They were running out of city. They were traveling abroad, and one member relocated and visited abroad for studies. But I was keep continuing the program until middle of May. Our program strength was that it was very fixable and didn't really taking a clinical focus. It was not a clinical focus, evidence-based type of work. It was very unstructured, openly delivered service. So, shortly we were offered expertise and assist those who came in a way that they could, and shared meals with people. We become part of their life. We share our food. We give them some pride, and because the warning was there again with certain earthquake and other incidents. So people living with the fear and anxiety that tsunami might come and appear again. We spent days in a road covering different cities day by day according to whoever invited. Then we had chance to do certain programs in a western side and little very minimum in northern side, because northern was still going through civil war. It was very difficult to travel. I would like to little bit get your attention to the some techniques and some approaches that we used. The next few moment. Mindfulness-based Buddhist practices was the very main therapeutic, and I found the acceptance talk with the radical basis, which very much acceptance commitment practices coming from a Buddhist path, Buddhist psychology with mindfulness. That was one of the tools we used to help people get into acceptance and realize that they were feeling in the present moment and regret that experience with the compassion. In this and encouraged spiritual transformation of Buddhism, spiritual practices, and that they followed, because they had already planted seed from the generation to generation with the Buddhism. It was very easy us to collaborate all Western psychology and practices and mindfulness with them. They were not feeling that they're doing something strange. They feel that they're becoming a part of something that they already know. Participants had the opportunity to heal their wound and find wholeness, wisdom, and loving kindness through this work. And the mindfulness training, we help with technique basis and mostly integrating lifestyle basis, so that they don't feel strange with what they're living and occurring through trauma, tsunami crisis, without judging themselves. Because most of them were living with anger and fear the same time to the coastal and sea. These people have wonderful human relationship, and these people have wonderful relationship with Mother Earth, Sea. But after having tsunami, that relationship bond was destroyed. The bond was detached. People were hurting and living anger towards to sea, beach, lagoons, and rivers. So helping them to build up that natural attachment, that was one of the part of it. So mindfulness, self-compassion, and life kind of practice again, that was a big part of it. We trained them. They were doing, not all of them, some of them were already giving up because they were engaging with rituals, and some of them were going through bereavement process and mournings. So we had to collaborate. Let me share one of the very good experience, and we had experience with the stages of grief were explained to them, and I always recommended my friends. I gave them a chart of grief stages, 7 stages, such as pain and guilt and anger and bargaining, depression. The towards to turn, the point stages, grief like anger and pain have died down. Reconstruction and working through stage and acceptance and hope. So very rarely we experience people still getting to accept and hope, but we were lucky to see some stages were progressing and and some stages were moving. Again, end of the day, all of you need to understand they not only lost one family member, but also they lost many family members, parents. Something they lost everything that they had collected for years and years, not only jewelries, but also all the assets and treasures they had been collected. They were lost with everything. And directing them to spiritual guidance with the Buddhist, Christian, Catholic, all integrative and other religious, we found people getting adapted with thinking and rituals. Ritual makes so much support to the grieving and mourning process, bereavement steps and help, and it would primary solitary help them to achieve inter psychic endeavor. So, like I said before, childhood trauma was notified. It was there. It has raising. It has coming out with so much challenges and so much distraction. Or we let them to separate childhood trauma that towards to their life, see and family. But it was very difficult. PTSD, post-traumatic stress, always counter trigger trauma. But we found people more realizing childhood trauma is related, but it is not about this. We tried helping participants our best we could, even it was very challengeable to us. We were a young team. At some point, I had to run it without other support. I lost support few times, but I'm so glad that my team, 2 people, were always helping. But with the same time, I have to do many things by myself, and because it's a voluntary support system and very difficult to get support, and the group work based on mindfulness practice might trigger unprocessed emotions and re-traumatize the participant. We will slowly avoid talking about certain reoccurring experience and helping them by using certain technical systems such as EMDR, eye moment desensitizations and reprocessing, EMDR, container exercises, tapping, grounding exercises, minimize the re-traumatized experience. So this is a technique very well integrated with Buddhism. That was a very supportive and very effective. Generally, these techniques used group setting support participant with compassion to deal consciously and subconsciously with unresolved pain, memories and trauma, associate emotions and feeling to resulting the event occurring PTSD experience. Having said that, the majority of attendants felt deeply wounded in the 2-3 week of event, and they were so discouraging themselves. They were avoiding. They were basically making issues and argument with us. That was a part of grief stages. We understand that, but we help them to settle, and as much as they can get our support. I would like you to be more mindful that this is not a program we run in a one spot. We located a few places in a few times, then we took break, and then we were silent for a while, then we go back according to their need. Because we don't want to distract the mainstream support program that running by many non-government organizations and other units. The approach used in the program, we integrate loving and kindness metta practice. That they were very well aware of Buddhist lifestyle, living in a loving kindness way, integrating mindfulness aspect with the metta lifestyle. It innovates the positive self-talk, struggling find acceptance, who self-critical and other progresses. People already doing metta. I know a lot of senior people, senior population, they do metta before they go to bed or when they go to temple in a different way, but the value and the psychological value is very same. Different between grief and depression was a big challenge. I and my team struggle because people grieve differently. They experience grief and trauma very differently. Some may notice symptoms, some are not really noticing, and people already living with the depression. such with a multiple withdrawal from social settings and having intense feeling and sadness, we really have to stick to what depression and what grief. So, for example, the difference between depression and grief we notice through symptoms and the duration of such distinctions and distractions. While people with a depression feel depressed almost all the time and with certain event, individuals who are grieving often have symptoms that fluctuate or come in waves. Support and acceptance, people living with the depression, people often being isolated themselves, they're not very open mind to support. We found some differences with the grief, acceptance and support. Those who are grieving may avoid vibrant social settings, but they often accept some support when you really reach them effectively. That's something we clearly notified. Ability to function is something that we do. People function, school, home, survival campus support, family affair and things, grieving, but they may not feel the participant, but this help occur their mind. People clinically depressed may not experience symptoms, so they say that they're unable to go to work or do function normal life and important tasks. The idea of complicated and prolonged grief were not really developed in a DSM setting in 2005, if I remember correct, because I was a student at that time. But we found the prolonged part of the grief is very much occurring, continue longer to decreased and trouble of thinking and living with the occurrent experience rather than death and anger. Difficult accepting that this deceased is one of is gone. Difficult to trust other people, even family members, including professionals, and long-lasting bitterness over the lost. Trouble remembering positive memories, feeling as the life longer has meaning, neglecting proper physical, mental. So we notice all those prolonged symptoms of grief. So this is what we experience, the difference between grief and thing. So getting to a closing part of the discussion today, I'm sure you are already typing some of the questions, and I would answer those questions after my closing proper closings. The experience of leading to mindfulness-based mobile crisis mobile camp for tsunami survivors reinforced for me that very few resources are required to provide an impactful service in crisis situation. Many Western world and Eastern world still believing that they're not providing those services. They stop providing those services because they think it need $1 million of resources. And I know even some of the program recently I had seen in North America had been shut down without having resources, because there is a belief the resources are $1 million values. But this was a very good example. You don't need $1 million values. What you need is a committed staff and population with the little resources. Recently, this idea was recognized by a few professionals, and I had reached by some professionals and asked about my plan and my knowledge, and I share with them. I would like to do this more formally in future. This is an idea that can deliver without many donations and many funding, because it's not about the resources, it is about organizing and commenting with the empathic alliances and commented to what you do. Many session and group programs were delivered until May 15th, 2005, and then I had to back to my studies and my lifestyle, and then concept had become a role model. Many natural disasters and few people reached, like I said, and crisis situation. I provided my knowledge. I firmly believe that with a little ingenuity of planning, our model can be implicated anywhere in similar circumstances, anywhere in this world. Summer, winter, disaster, any condition, any geographical challenges. An idea useful for any organization, non-government organization, community-based organization or other organizations, since it saves time, can be done with a limited budget and can be integrated with a trauma-informed approach. And trauma-informed approach is very much getting booming in our society and organization. It very well integrates with the trauma-informed approach. The almost of good that can be done is extraordinary. I hope all of you with this little Zoom workshop learned about something new, something that you already know maybe. Wishing you a happy 2022 New Year. Metta, love and kindness.